All right. Welcome, everybody, to this webinar about Pirche, and people are slowly coming in. So today we're going to talk about Pirche, and I first introduce myself briefly, and then I'll go to the team. So my name is Sabine Beuk, and I will guide the webinar today. I'm a co-owner of Generous Minds, and we are a cooperative in the Netherlands. And with 35 co-owners, we support impact-driven companies like Pirche with expertise and access to impact capital in order to help them grow their business and also their impact. So yeah, we support Pirche because of their highly advanced technology, on which they will share a little bit more today. And they will actually tell us a little bit more about how they use AI-driven technology to redefine organ transplantations and optimize cancer treatments. So, of course, we will also talk about how you can become a part of their journey, so as an investor. So for that, Lucas joined us today from Invesdor, and he will share a little bit more about that process. So excited to get started, but first let's have a brief introduction of the team. So Bethany Dale from Pirche, maybe you can start with a brief introduction about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Sabine. So my name is Bethany Dale. I'm our Senior Vice President for Commercialization. I am based in the United States, leading our commercialization efforts in our major market here. I hold a PhD in molecular physiology and biophysics from Vanderbilt University, and I did my training in transplant immunology at Johns Hopkins. I've been in the field for about 15 years, focusing on histocompatibility and transplant science, and excitedly joined the Pirche team a couple of years ago now, and have been growing our initiatives with Thomas since then.
Thank you, Bethany, for the introduction. And Thomas, can you do the same?
Yeah, would love to. Thank you very much for this nice start. And hello, everybody who is out there for our webinar. I'm Thomas Klein, the founder and CEO of Pirche. I'm an entrepreneur since more than 25 years in the field. Actually, I do not confess to all companies I founded, but two were quite successful. One is Noxon Pharmaceuticals, which I founded in 1997 and sold my shares in the company when Pfizer invested in 2006. And we had deals also with Roche and Lilly. And I founded Arquay, the first spin-off from the Hasso-Plattner Institute, one of the centers of excellence for IT engineering in Germany, in 2004. And we sold the company very successfully in 2010. I started this company, and I let a little more know later when I show the team, 2011-12, when I met in Utrecht Eric Spreings, a great scientist. We developed the strategy and the technology over the years. Now we are going into the market, and we're happy to show you a little more here about this.
Thank you, Thomas. And Lucas, can you do the same?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, my pleasure to be part of this amazing expert round here. I'm very happy to represent Invesdor today. My name is Lucas. I'm based in Berlin, and I'm responsible for all startups and VC and also equity topics at Invesdor in the DACH market. And this is also why I've been the main contact person of Pirche, and Thomas especially. And as you all know, Invesdor is the impact investing platform where Pirche has been currently raising money for its Series A growth round. I had the pleasure to support Pirche from the very beginning, and there were many different reasons, very strong arguments why we decided to support Pirche. For example, its highly innovative solutions with 25 patents, then the product market fit and Pirche's unique market position, working with some of the most significant industry players. Also, of course, look into this webinar, very experienced and proficient business leaders and also highly capable management team. But let me go into more detail after Pirche's presentation, so afterwards.
Thank you, Lucas. And so for everybody who's joining today and listening to the webinar, so Thomas and Bethany will tell you more about Pirche, and Lucas as well about the investment opportunity and how that works. So that will be the next 20 to 30 minutes, but feel free to, if you already have questions now in between, to write them down in the chat, and we will make sure they get answered after the presentation. And also other questions that we received in advance of the webinar, we make sure to cover them in the final half hour. So stay tuned. And Thomas, Bethany, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will start with an introduction, and we make this next slide. We are in transplant medicine, and as you may know and have already read on our webpage, transplantation is not very effective today. After 5 to 10 years, only half of the organs are still alive and working. This means, for example, for kidney patients, they have to go back to dialysis, have heavy side effects, and many of the people die earlier. So we are working on this to improve here the outcomes of transplantation. And we have a total new platform. The concept was invested in Utrecht at the University Medical Center by Dr. Eric Spearings. And I was on another project with him in around 2011. And we discussed this, and as I had to stop because the technology of the other project wasn't strong enough, we decided to go forward here. And after 3 years, in around 2014-15, we had enough results that I could bring in investors. We have, as of now, high network individuals, mostly from this field, who invested about 20 million in the first years into the company. And now for the last round before break even, it's about a 3 million round. We are looking after our current investors, including myself, by the way. We're investing 1 million. We are looking for 2 million, and with this great platform, Invesdor. And this is Alexandre Lupi. Alex Lupi is one of the leading nephrologists in Germany, in Paris, sorry, in France. And when he said this sentence, algorithms will not replace doctors, however, doctors who use algorithms will replace those who don't, there was loud protest in the room. And this was 2 years ago at the American Transplant Congress. And this year in the American Transplant Congress, there's in the end always a big summary where everyone is there, and there is always one session which is called What's New, What's Hot, one of the best or the best thing from the conference. And this year it was Pirche. And so you can see even what fast development we are, that a digital diagnostic algorithms are now seen as hot and new from the community in transplant medicine. Bethany, please make the next slide. As I said already, it is now the birth, you can see here, of a decade work, which is herein. We have 80 peer-reviewed publications showing in 250,000 patient cases where we are. And you can see here, and please go to our webpage, there you can see it. I don't need to read everything here. What was a big milestone in each of the year, what we have done, even during the pandemic, where we were more or less for 2 years frozen because clinics were not really in this time focused on bringing in new technologies. We developed great things with the company, and now we are moving straight to the market. And Bethany, who's with us about 2 years now, is running this perfectly in the United States. And please, next slide. There you can see our achievements at a glance. So we are in 2 business fields. On the left side, it's digital diagnostic in transplant medicine. We show a little more in a moment what this means, how we help to improve the outcome of transplantations. But we are also lucky. In 2020 was a Nobel Prize for the gene scissor. CRISPR-Cas9 called this technology. They know exactly now how you can change the genome to make cell therapies work. However, questions for the immunological side effects there can only one company really answer, and this is us. So we are slowly moving also into this field. However, our focus is on digital diagnostics. Here we want to break even with the company within the next 2 years on a great business case, what Bethany will show in a moment. What we accomplished is 80 peer-reviewed publications globally from leading scientists proving that our algorithms work well. We have the evidence of the medical positive impact of transplantation on more than 250,000 patient cases. And our platform is protected by 25 patents, which is, I think, a really important case that these patents with new applications we had since last year go still and bring us exclusivity for the next 19 years. This is a very strong position. Another strong position is that we work with the leaders in the industry, Werfen, where we have a great contract. They pay us a higher double-digit thousand number revenue every month we have with Werfen, that they just have access to our platform with their suite. And since last year, we are working with Thermo Fisher, and I make from time to time the joke saying, we are in this peer deal, we are 17 people, they are 177,000 people. And this shows how digital small companies with new technologies, with protected technologies, help even bring the big players in the market to go forward. Our objectives are that we by mid-2026 have a break even, the R&D partnering in immunosuppressant dosing, so the post-transplant care, not only pre-transplant risk assessment, what we're doing now, we want to go in. And as I said also already, the digital therapeutic field, we want to enter there. Please go to the next slide, Bethany. And this is a team. As I said, I'm an entrepreneur since 20 years. Eric Spearings is the inventor of the concept, a great partner for us. He is the lab director of the HLA lab, so genetic lab at the University Medical Center in Utrecht. And he is working also with many scientific projects with us, with postdocs, with PhD students. So this is extremely helpful, and these Dutch-German partnership is the core of the success of this company. Bethany will show in a moment how great she is, how well she's doing in the last 2 years, bring us really in the market. And I'm always happy to work with people who are so much better than I, because I'm the entrepreneur. I can bring all the things together, but really bring this in the market. You need much more understanding. You need contacts, and that's what Bethany has, and really propels us in this market. And Matthias Niemann, the Vice President Technology, is working since 10 years with us. He is really the head behind the whole development of the platform, very closely working with Eric, and this great team is part of our success. Next slide, please, Bethany. You can see where the people are based. So in Germany is the biggest group. Here we have technology, IT development, and quality management here. It's a great international team. We brought in really the brains, what we need on the right side to stay more with the technology basis we have next to Eric, who's an advisor of us. He works for the University Medical Center in Utrecht. We have 2 great bioinformatic engineers here. It's Bram and Ben. Ben works with us since 2.5 years now. He is American, but since several years in the Netherlands. And Bram was a postdoc in Yale, where one of the hotspots of AI is for the healthcare sector. And he came back a year ago, and we are so happy that he started with us. And the success is also always that the product goes in the market, that we make revenues, and finally the doctors are happy that they can help the patients, and patients have a better quality of life and a higher chance to survive with us. And this is done under the leadership of Bethany in the US with Morgan. She is the partnering director for the clinics, and Hillary, who worked in 17 years in HLA labs in the US, in great university clinics. She is our product owner and helps us to develop and polish, finally polish this product in a perfect way. So this is my introduction here. I would like to hand over to Bethany. Please, Bethany, give us your overview, where we are and where we go.
Thank you, Thomas, for the overview of the company. And as Sabine mentioned, if there's any questions, please do continue to write them in the Q&A section as we go forward, and we'll answer them at the termination of the presentation. So what is the issue, and what is the reason that I wake up every morning for the last 17 years? And I remember writing my letter of intent to graduate school, and it was for the 120,000 people that are on the wait list in the United States, nearly 400,000 people waiting for a graft across the world. And 50% of all transplanted organs are no longer going to be functional after 5 to 10 years. And so when we think about the transplant process and where patients enter and where they unfortunately continue to cycle, there are two main deficits. The first is insufficient donor-recipient matching. And this has everything to do with how compatible you are with your donor that is given. And what we look at here are 12 different genes within the DNA, in addition to gender and sex compatibility, as well as a conventional blood group compatibility. Once you go through transplantation, the challenges are not over, however. The challenge has just started. And this has everything to do with post-transplant care. And for a long time, this has been thought of as a one-size-fits-all, which includes sometimes dangerous monitoring, like putting a needle into the kidney for a biopsy, as well as uniform, lifelong drug regimens that ultimately can end up with things like cancer and cardiovascular disease. And so this is really where we believe our biggest impact can be made here at Pirche. And so if we can transition those deficits into advantages for the clinicians and bring them a new tool, such as our digital diagnostic algorithm, we can now aim to reduce the number of failed allografts from 50% in 5 to 10 years. Number one, with our extremely precise molecular recipient matching that is driven by our AI-enabled pipeline. We're not going to go into the nitty-gritty of the back end of the platform today, but we would be happy to take some of those conversations offline if what is available online is insufficient for yourself. And then also, how do we facilitate the conversation with the clinician on the post-transplant side? How do we create a new dialogue on how personalized medicine can truly be implemented for these transplantation patients who unfortunately go overlooked often in these medical systems because they are a very small portion of the medical practice, but a gift of life was given to them, and so it's up to us to help prolong that gift. This is a very high level on the technology. Pirche does stand for something, in addition to enhancing patient lives and bringing the technologies to the physicians. But ultimately, we're in the business of risk. Transplant is a risky business, and every decision that a clinician makes is a risk evaluation. And so we are here to help them predict the risk of transplanted organs being rejected, even years into the future. How can we facilitate this most effectively? And the first thing that we did when we started to address the US market was access. How do we access these clinics? As Thomas showed you, we are a small team, and so we did this through a networking approach. And we have 2 key contracts with Werfen, formerly known as Immucor. The parent company is based in Spain. And HistoTrack, which is a lab information system that nearly the vast majority of US clinics use to manage their information in the transplant laboratories. Their parent company is Thermo Fisher, as Thomas said. And so a lot can be said for the fact that between these 2 partnerships that we have and their sales teams, we have nearly 90% market access in the United States, outside of our own personal contacts. Another question that we certainly wanted answered was, how ready is the market? Are they truly ready to see a molecular diagnostic? And so last year we performed market research that was conducted by an independent agency, GuidePoint, in Manhattan. And we surveyed nearly 40% of US kidney transplant physicians. So 70 programs, 24 states. So very good market share and had great findings. So we looked at 96% think that the HLA risk assessment, which is the risk assessment that we're talking about, can be improved. And 92% think that our solution can or may be able to be this improvement. And then when we ask them how truly ready are they to adopt this? If I walked in and sat in front of them in their office today, what does that conversation look and feel like? And you can see in the green bars here that the vast majority, not just the innovators, not just the people who are willing to go skydiving on a Saturday morning, but the people who are late to the party, they are also ready to join in the conversation. And so ultimately, this led Thomas and myself to believe that the main majority is truly prepared for adoption, and we now just need to facilitate this with boots on the ground. How does this actually translate into our business model? So our business model is based on transplant volume. In the United States, there's a little over 40,000 solid organ transplants performed annually. This is unfortunately growing, but fortunate for the business, at about 8 to 10% annually. And we'll probably see a flooding of this increase as well as a result of long-term COVID effects that will come in the years to come. Our business model is then charging a revenue of $1,500 per case. And so when we do some math involved there, our serviceable obtainable market in the United States for solid organ transplantation is about 60 to 70 million US dollars. This will continue to grow and expand as we go into stem cell therapy, and particularly CAR T-cell therapy as well, that we're not going to focus on today, but happy to take questions on. Additionally, myself and my colleagues have been creating the US sales pipeline. This does take time to start to plant the seed and to grow. It is a longer process than pharmaceuticals, and capital sales typically take somewhere between 12 and 18 months to close an account. There's a lot of parties involved, but what we can see here is that we've created a pipeline to start the domino effect. So we've started this about 18 months ago, and so we're going to start feeling the effects quite soon as we begin closing some additional accounts in the United States. This is the overall business plan. A lot of this is also available on the Invesdor site as well. And Thomas can help address additional detailed questions. But ultimately, where we are focusing as a company and on our revenue distribution back into the company is on the commercialization of the Pirche product into the transplant space. Everything else that we do is just extra. But this is truly where we are putting our resources. And where are we going to be focusing those resources? One is on living kidney paired donation. So if your aunt or uncle needed a kidney and you were altruistic and you wanted to donate, but they said you might not be the best match, they go into what is called a domino exchange. And this is where they then optimize the immune risk for each individual. And we're beginning to be involved in those domino exchanges. The second, I already mentioned briefly, but this is on post-transplant care. Post-transplant care is lengthy, it's expensive, and not always in the best interest of the patient. And so how do we improve the quality of life of the patient after they are given the gift of life? And then thirdly, if you've been following some of the news out of the United States, they've actually successfully performed not one, but two heart transplants from pigs, which is called xenotransplantation, as well as a kidney into a human as well. And so this is no longer a laboratory experiment. This is real life for us. And this is coming, and we've already modified our product to be able to fit this need. And what is interesting and very cool about that is that we understand xenotransplantation. We understand that all of the iterations on this slide here are possible. And the field needs tools like us to make these evaluations. This is not traditional medicine. We're putting an animal organ into a living human being, and we need to have the AI understanding in order to do that. And then lastly, where some of our R&D efforts are focused is understanding that the immune system is everywhere, and CAR T-cell therapy has exploded over the last 5 years. And how can we begin to enhance the off-the-shelf offerings of these companies at multiple pivot points in their development, all the way from the preclinical stages, where we can partner with them in the actual development of their products, to engaging with them after their product has already been developed, but an optimization step. And then lastly, how do they actually select the therapy for the individual? How can they create that precision medicine that is needed even more now than ever? And so in conclusion, I will hand it over to the CEO, Thomas Klein.
Yes, thank you very much, Bethany. Very briefly, because I guess there are some questions out there. We do have really the potential with our brand new technology, which is developed in Europe and in the United States, but the origins are here, that we really transform transplant medicine. We make transplantations better for the patients. This is what we have shown, and this is what doctors believe. And on the Invesdor webpage, there will be also some testimonials in the next days from doctors, from investors, why they work with us and why they invest us. Please check this out. And as I said, we are raising up to 3 million before we think we can break even with the company in our business field, transplant medicine. And just to start, that we have the chance to talk with the industry in the cell therapy field, up to 3 million. We have already from our investors 1.1 million in, and as I've seen, it works very well thanks to this great platform Invesdor in the last days, that we can give a chance to invest pre-IPO, pre-M&A into a company like ours with this crowdfunding platform. This is new, and I'm so happy that we have the chance to offer this opportunity to, let me say, normal investors, not only VCs or very highly specialized individuals with a lot of money. No, you can invest here and see transparently where we are and do this. So feel free to check this out, and feel free to send us questions. We are happy to answer them, or to answer right now in the second half of this session.
All right. Thank you so much, Thomas and Bethany, for the presentation. There are a few questions, so I will guide you through them and see whomever is best to pick up. So first of all, there was a question sent before the webinar, which stated, why are the current shareholders not investing the requested 2 million? And are you looking for new investors?
Yeah, this is a great question, and partly we answered already in this with the 3 million, 1.1 million already were invested. And these are the current investors, and one new investors also with this. It's a high net worth individual, a manager, a CEO from a really interesting healthcare company, and he invested 250,000 euros of these 1.1 million because he believes in this company. And now we give the chance with this crowdfunding platform also to invest here in us. And as I can see, as we move forward, this works perfectly. And I thank already for all the trust herein. But as said, our current investors are already engaged here as they are since 8 years.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Thomas. And can you mention a little bit about the investors, not probably fully disclosing all names, but maybe to give an idea?
Yeah, we are an AG, so an incorporated. Most investors want to stay anonymous. All of them are high net worth individuals. It's about 12 investors we have. They have their family offices. And one investor we can reveal because he is working for us very closely. It's Jürgen Schumacher. He is the co-founder and an ex-CEO of QIAGEN, one of the European multi-billion-dollar companies in healthcare. He founded others too. He's really supportive. He's in since the beginning, and he's invested here via Science Holding. You can see this in the list of the investor page, and via Cydelon GBR. So he has a prominent role, and others also from the healthcare sector. Some of the investors are not from the healthcare sector. They are from industry, from real estate, but they believe in us, and all of them are long-term investors and always supported us as they've done it also with the 1.1 million.
All right, thank you. There was one question coming in today from Andreas Jager, if I pronounce your name correctly. So that's the question of Andreas is, why are you striving for crowdfunding instead of alternative means of funding, like from a large existing collaboration partner like Thermo Fisher, for example?
Yeah, this is a very good question. We do have already funding from one of our partners. So Werfen gave us a convertible loan. They were willing even to invest, but we don't want to have their strategic interest, which are in maybe and not our strategic interest, because these are big companies, and to let them in too early, maybe not the best idea. It's exactly the same with Thermo Fisher. We are very close talking to them. And on the other hand, you must know Thermo Fisher is a company, they make $48 billion revenues per year. So investing in us 1 to 3 million, they are not even looking to this. For us, we're too small. However, they needed the deal with us because they do not have access to these new technologies. So this is something developing. And one of our exit scenarios, you can see it on the investor page, is an M&A with one of our industry partners. They are all interested, already talking with us, but an investment would maybe bring us in a situation where we don't get the best price in 1 or 2 years or 3 years when we want to exit. It's one of the opportunities.
Clear, thank you. And one other question that came in is from anonymous participants. They asked, so if I get it right, the main revenue drivers are SaaS, and next to that, every time 1,500 per organ that goes through the software. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can take that. So yes, thank you for the question. So ultimately, our business plan is based on SaaS agreements with institutions, and that is adjusted based on their transplant volume. So as their transplant volume goes up, their agreement value goes up annually as well, and will be adjusted if it's an increase over 20% of the estimated volume of the center. So some easy math, if they do 100 transplants, it's a $150,000 contract. If they do 300, it's 3 times that. So we will ultimately grow with the market. And additionally, as we expand our algorithms, that 1,500 may grow to 1,750, 2,000, 2,500, et cetera, right? So as we provide more services, we'll be able to justify an increase in the cost as well.
Yeah, clear. Thank you, Bethany. Another question that came in today is, and this is about products, so I think it's good to answer these now. Is the core competence of Pirche only between exclamation marks AI logic software to make better matches before transplantation will take place? So is that the focus of Pirche, or is there more?
No, that's a good question. So sometimes when people are presented with the concept of Pirche, they get their initial thought and then they kind of get tunnel vision on how it can be used. The interesting part about transplant, like I said, is every decision that the clinician makes in that patient's journey is a risk assessment. And they ultimately always go back to the compatibility of the donor and the recipient for every decision that they make. You have an infection, how compatible are you? You have a rejection, how compatible are you? You missed your clinic appointment, how concerned are we? You have a low lab level, how concerned are we? So this is not just about matching and identifying a donor, but it's also about the maintenance of the organ after the transplant has occurred.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and then next one that came in before the webinar take place. So is there currently any dividends paid to shareholders at the moment?
At the moment, no. We are not profitable. We plan to break even, so have profitability by around mid-26. And one of our scenarios is that we keep the company running. It's highly profitable what we do. It's a digital business model, SaaS agreement saying software as a service. And sometimes these contracts are very volatile. One year they are up, the other year they are down. In healthcare, not, because once you are in the clinic is always is very well understood how the next years come. And as we can plan with this, we may let the company run for many years and send out dividends to the shareholders. If shareholders want to leave, the contracts say you can sell your shares at any time and then exit from it with a profit, or you stay on board. This is one of the three scenarios we have. The other is an M&A with one of the big industry players, and another is especially if we move forward in the United States with the cell therapies, is make the company public at a stock market.
Yeah, clear. Thank you, Thomas. Another question is about the products, and which one of the products in the company's portfolio already have market approval, in which countries and or areas?
So we can work already now with our risk assessment pre-transplant. We are selling it. We have contracts with European clinics, big European clinics like the Charité in Berlin or the University Hospital in Zurich. And we have already contracts with US clinics. And this is heavily growing. But please, Bethany, if you may add here how we move forward post-transplant, because here we need for sure some more work in for the quality management.
Yeah, ultimately, we'll operate as a software as a service. The FDA has not entirely decided how they treat companies like ourselves. And so we're currently optimizing our quality management. We are bringing all of our backend up to the caliber that the FDA would expect us to be at. But we will be continuing to work in the market as a software as a service company. And there are advantages to this. So once the FDA, no one voluntarily gets regulated by the FDA. But once you do, you can then begin to file for different billing codes in the United States within our medical system. And that may transition actually our business model from a volume-driven approach to a transaction-driven approach. And so that will be developing in the years to come. But as market approval is not an essential for us to be able to operate.
Yeah, thank you, Bethany. And with regard to, let's say, FDA approval, I think the next question that's also interesting to maybe answer is, what's the biggest risk of your business, if you would, care to explain?
Biggest risk of our business is that we try to make too many things at the same time. This is my experience over 25 years. And when I founded Arquay, which I said in the beginning, the first spin-off from the Hasso-Plattner Institute in Potsdam, Hasso-Plattner, the co-founder of SAP in Germany these days, was also a co-founder of this company, Arquay. And he always said, and this is really true, do one thing, make it really well, show that it works, and then go to the next. And this is what we are doing. We are in transplant medicine. We are in pre-transplant risk assessment. And here we make the money, as Bethany has shown, and we can even break even with the company. And now slowly we think about how to go beyond this with post-transplant care, how we can, because this is a development which is out, xenotransplantation with kidney from swines. How can this work? How can we help there? Or even go to the cell therapies. But we do this very carefully. We do this always only together with the industry, only together with the clinics. And we focus on our business. The biggest risk is try to make too much at the same time.
Yeah, I think all entrepreneurs recognize that the challenge, but thank you, Thomas. Another question that came in today is there any direction on when, what revenue or something is the goal to exit cell? So I think at what time are you considering to exit potentially or sell? And are you even considering?
It's always the question, when is the best time to exit from a company like this, or stay in and keep it long term as a, let's say, a cash cow, because we are highly profitable is what we do. It will be around 2026 when the company is at the point to break even, and we know much better how well and how broadly we can help in the cell therapy field, and how we advance with the post-transplant care, and how is doing the xenotransplantation. As this is, as a time will show, is it normal development, fast development, we will decide when to exit. And investors who invest through Invesdor now do have the same rights as all the others. And we will discuss this here together, because we are sitting in the same boat. Your investment is as valuable as investment from some high net worth individuals from the field. And we will then very frankly communicate in our investor group what we think is best, and then see that everyone goes along with it. As said, we have written down 3 exit scenarios. One of these will take place within the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. And if you need any more information about this answer, also have a look at the investor page, because there's a lot of information to find there as well. I think we're going to the final 2 or 3 questions. I think related to this is, there was a question as well. Do you think Pirche needs another round of funding in the near future?
Not for the business we have shown here. If we decide to go into cell therapy, because this would make the whole business much, much bigger, we have to decide how deeply we want to partner with the pharmaceutical industry, getting there some dependencies, or do we want to strategically do it ourselves? And then we may decide to invest, but not in this business field. This is not planned. In this business plan, you see here, this is a plan where with the investment, we can break even with the company. And if we add on something in the future, this is to be discussed. And only this is my learnings over the last 25 years, if we have great partnerships with the industry, technology company do best in partnering with the industry and keeping the independence in best case by patents as we have.
Yeah, clear, Thomas. Then the final question, I think, to you, Thomas and Bethany, and then I have a final wrap-up question for Lucas as well. So of course, the competitors, we didn't really address it extensively. Maybe it's good to briefly elaborate on that. So does Pirche have any competitors? And if so, who are they and how do they look like?
Bethany, this is your call.
Sure. So in the field of what we do, which is called epitope matching, there are really only two academic technologies that are offered. One is out of the University of Pittsburgh, and then the other is out of Leiden in the EU. What's important about those is they are academic technologies. They don't have companies that support them. There's no quality assurance involved in them. And there are limited capacities on how they can be utilized and applied within the clinical realm. So there's limited infrastructure on when clinicians can also apply those. Ultimately, from a technology basis, there is no competitor. No one else has a T-cell prediction product. And where we are in our pipeline, we will also be providing a B-cell predictor, which would make us the only company and source to provide T and B-cell prediction in the same platform.
Clear. Thank you, Bethany. Yeah, and then the final question to Lucas is, of course, related to Invesdor. So maybe there are people today and are watching this webinar that are very familiar with Invesdor. Maybe there's some new investors that are not very familiar with the platform. So I wanted to ask you, Lucas, can you share a little bit about Invesdor to wrap up? And also what I think is important to share how you select the companies you team up with.
Yeah, of course. So we as Invesdor are one of Europe's leading impact investment platforms, and we basically focus on two different things. First one, innovative growth companies that tackle today's big challenges, everything related to ESG or SDG, like every imaginable part of impact startups and scale-ups, medtechs, for example, green techs, prop techs, clean techs, you name it. And second, we also target renewable energy projects. So for example, solar plants or wind farms. In this case of Pirche, it's not very necessary because we focus on impact startups, and definitely Pirche is one. So this is like one side of the platform. And the other side of the platform, it consists of almost 200,000 private investors from over 100 countries. I see also there are many in this webinar here. This means that we as an investment platform bring both sides together, right? So on the one hand, we have this investment side, and on the other hand, we have the private investors who choose their projects accordingly and also individually. And we obviously also have a due diligence process, and in many regards, we act like a traditional VC or like an investment company in terms of evaluating the company that is looking for money by conducting our own due diligence process and analyzing the company in terms of USP, in terms of business model, in terms of the management team, in terms of strategy, the product market fit. We do also do market research, of course. We look into the competitive environment, the market opportunity itself. And obviously, since it is a equity product, the growth story and exit scenarios are very important. So this means we review, for example, the pitch deck, which is like the key document, I would say, for every startup or scale up. Then obviously the business plan, the financial and liquidity planning, and other company documents. And at the end of this process, where we have a look into the different details, there is an investment committee taking place, which consists of our Invesdor management team. So from the three different areas we have, the DACH market, the Benelux area, and also the Nordics. Then the investment managers and the analysts. So in the case of Pirche, since it was like one of my cases, and I was the main contact person, I was in the IC, in the investment committee as well. And here we discuss all opportunities and all risks of the potential portfolio company. And then we make a final decision of whether we are interested in investing or not. And if everything goes well, we hand over from the investment management team to our marketing and campaign team. So the next step is to prepare and also to implement the financing round in the form of a campaign on our platform, which you can see at the moment, invesdor.com, invesdor.at, invesdor.de, and so on, which is like Pirche on our platform. And it's also important to know that we as Invesdor, we do not act as lead or anchor investor, but only as co-investor, which means that one of our requirements here is that the company gets at least 1/3 of its total funding round of financing amount from their existing or from new investors. And we say that 1/3 should come from their network, and the other third approximately comes from us, from our platform, from our private investors. And therefore, many companies, many impact startups consider us as an, so to say, add-on financier, not as a strategic partner, such as a specific VC or family office was what Pirche also has, obviously. But this is totally fine and valid for us. And maybe I try to transfer everything theoretically, what I just said, to Pirche now, because there was a connection with Pirche through our network. And from the very first touching point, I was totally convinced of the great potential of Pirche. I met Thomas, I think, in beginning of May. Everything was very positive, and the communication was also very professional. Of course, it is a highly complex field in which Pirche operates, as you could tell. But what I really appreciated from Thomas was that he could explain the business model, the very high, complex, very hard business model in a very easy and efficient language. That was also one of his great qualities as an entrepreneur, making very complex matters in a very simple way. And we have, as Invesdor, different basic requirements that must be fulfilled. For example, a strong impact focus, but this is definitely given. Pirche's business model has a huge impact, to be honest, one of the biggest I have seen in my career so far at Invesdor. Then also the company must be registered in the EU, which is also the case at Pirche as well. Officially, they are headquartered in Germany, even though operating very international. This is also a big plus. Then there must be a proof of concept in the form of revenue of at least 500K in annual sales to show that the business model works. This was the case as well. And lastly, since it is an equity case, we need for our private investors a growth and exit story. And Thomas just mentioned it, and Bethany as well. There are lots of valid exit scenarios. And these are like all the basic criteria need to be given. Then we got the access to the data room and carefully checked all the relevant documents, all the strategic papers, all financial numbers, the legal documents, and also the official trademarks and IP sheets, etc. And yeah, so as I already mentioned at the very beginning of this webinar, there were many different reasons why we decided to support Pirche after very detailed due diligence. And Thomas, you remember that we had lots of different touching points. We asked questions, then you had some questions. We met some people from your network. You met some from our team as well. So it was very fun to work with you guys still. And what convinced us obviously was the relevance and potential of the technological solution to an existing medical problem. This is exactly what Thomas and Bethany just presented the past 30 minutes. Then no need to mention it's a highly innovative product with years of research and development, with more than 20 patents, 25 to be fair, which brings Pirche in a very strong and also secured market position for at least the next 15 to 19 years. And there are even some more patents on its way. That's what you told me in a personal conversation, Thomas. Then the experienced management team and the renowned investors at Pirche were a big plus. Then also that out of the 3.1 million, there were already secured more than 1/3, 1.1 million from existing investors. The high potential and fast growing market with Pirche operating internationally were very strong. Then we had a question here in the webinar that related to the cooperation with strong industry players. So we just saw that big corporates like Thermo Fisher Scientific or Burton are very essential partners. And I have to admit that they wouldn't work with any company just like that. So they carefully looking for their strategic partners, and they found a great innovation partner with Pirche. And yeah, so I have lots of different strong arguments why we decided for. Maybe to sum up, there were also some studies, some scientific studies highlighting how the solution works in practice, and more important, that the solution works. So there is a clear evidence of the function and of the value added of Pirche technology. And lastly, as I already said, like the professional setup and efficient communication throughout the process. So what do I mean by that? I liked how Pirche, and especially Thomas as an entrepreneur, acted sort of an orchestrator. So he exactly knew how who in his team or network has the correct answer for our questions. Therefore, we met most of his team and they could prove that all of them are experts in their field and why they are capable for their position at Pirche. So as you can see, to sum up, very long answer to your short question, but it was important for me personally to also give you a little bit of, some information behind the scenes, as it is a very strong and very innovative case.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas, for your elaboration. So I would like to wrap up the webinar of today. And if there are any questions to Thomas or Bethany, or any questions to Lucas, please feel free to reach out. Also for perhaps, by email or a personal meeting if you really want to go in depth. So reach out to us, and thank you for joining today, all of you.
Thank you for joining, everybody out there. Thank you, Sabine, for this great moderation. Bethany, as always, great. And Lucas, thank you very much to talk a little about our great, really partnership. I like it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.